I support Ron Paul, and this is why. In 2006, 2007 timeframe, I had started hearing a little bit more through the news and online about a dollar crisis, that our dollar was losing value. I didn't quite understand that. My understanding always has been that the dollar is worth a dollar. If I have a dollar, it's worth $1, and I can buy $1 worth of goods for that. I didn't understand that there was an inflation tax. It was something I had never heard of, and I didn't understand fractional reserve banking. I didn't understand the Federal Reserve. I had known that the Federal Reserve was a privately owned company, or cartel, as we now would like to recognize it. But I didn't quite understand the relationship that the Federal Reserve and the United States government had. I didn't understand how the Treasury and the Federal Reserve worked together and how it was basically a credit card with almost no limit on it. And the more I started reading and the more I started studying and understanding fractional reserve banking and understanding our current monetary policy and getting to understand that we did not have gold backing our money anymore. I remember as a child that that's what I always understood it to be. But anyhow, as I started looking into that, I kept hearing about this congressman from Texas named Ron Paul, and that these were ideas that he had been talking about for some time. I started hearing that he was running for president, and then when I started looking into him, I became excited. I was very, the word that kept coming to mind always was, it's refreshing. I actually had finally seen a politician that had answers to the problems, that was addressing the problems, that actually was telling us what was happening and why it's happening. Most politicians won't do that. They understand politics, and they understand the American people, and they understand the media, and they understand that most of us want to hear what we want to hear. We want to hear that things are going to be okay. We want to hear that everything's fine, or we want to hear scandal or things that are entertaining to us. But we really don't want to hear that we have a true financial crisis happening in this country. It's got the whole nation in a panic right now. It has for the last several years. But all we want to hear is that the stock market's up, that the economy is in an upswing, that the stimulus packages have put people back to work. That's what we want to hear. And believe me, I would love to hear those things too, if those things were working and if those were the answers to our problems, but they're not. It's kind of like taking somebody who has cancer and allowing them to take pain medication to manage the pain. They may feel better, but they're still dying. You have to address the cancer. You have to address the issue that is actually causing the pain, that is causing the problems. And unfortunately, most politicians in Washington don't have this backbone or the spine to actually address it. They know it's not popular. They understand it's going to scare people, and they don't want people to be scared. People that are scared tend to make rash decisions, and they may not vote for these people again, and that is all that these people have is their job in Washington. It means more to them than the oath they took, than the Constitution that this country was based on and founded on. And we need to get rid of those people. We need Ron Paul. We need a president who actually addresses the problems, who talks about them without fear, who explains what the solutions are, doesn't just tell us, well, if I get elected, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. We'll get change, grand change, just like the Obama change we got with deficit spending that we just cannot even comprehend. The average citizen doesn't understand the numbers. We don't get it. They're so large that most of us just shut it out. We just assume, well, they've always fixed it. The government's always ran. It's always worked. So they'll just keep it working. But they're not. They're digging our country into a hole that we can't get out of. The only way we're going to get out of it is by making those hard decisions, by doing some things that are going to definitely freak people out a little bit. But you have a man running for president right now who can make you feel comfortable, who can give you that courage to look at the night, to understand what's happening, because he actually will explain what's happening. He'll give you the solutions. They make sense. If you haven't looked into Ron Paul, if you haven't looked into our financial crisis short of watching MSNBC, Fox News, or CNN, if you haven't done some research of your own and understanding what type of monetary policy we have, how the banks work, how the Federal Reserve works, if you haven't done that, please do it. Those are the problems that are facing our country. Most of the other issues that we have voted on for so many generations are social. We voted on things such as gay rights, on the abortion issues, on military spending, on these sorts of things. We've made our decisions on who our leaders of this country are going to be. My friends, we're not in that situation anymore. We don't have that luxury anymore. This country is at the edge of the cliff. Everybody knows it. All financial experts understand it. The world knows it. Our rating as far as credit lending goes is being dropped constantly. China's just now come out and said they feel that we've defaulted. Most people on TV were like, oh, of course we haven't defaulted. Where's the source? Well, if you read a little further and understand why they're saying that, the reason they were saying that is because we've overinflated our dollar, which has lowered the value of our dollar to the point that they feel that their investment and what they would get back is going to be less than what they invested, because we now are we're lowering the value of our dollar every time that they turn on those printing presses. That's something I used to not understand. Now that I understand it, it makes a lot more sense. A lot of the problems that we have make a lot more sense. Doesn't make them any easier to accept, but it makes sense. I can understand why these things are happening. Ron Paul also understands that our nation building and policing the world and the American empire has got to stop. And I think most Americans realize it too. We're tired of watching these wars happen. We're tired of continually seeing our tax dollars and watching our national deficit go to astronomical numbers that it's never been at before. Meanwhile, we're spending billions of dollars fighting wars that most of us don't even know why we're fighting them. We don't even have an understanding of it. And the reason we don't is because they're not declared. They're not legal. They're not constitutional. There's no declared enemy. There's no declared end game or what victory would entail. They don't have one. They don't care. They know that we're just going to keep sitting by and it'll keep us distracted. As long as that's on the news, we won't look at these issues. We won't understand these things. They'll keep us pitted against each other. They'll pit us against Democrat and Republican. This isn't a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. This spending and this system has been put into place and operated and very much enjoyed by both parties for a very long time. This isn't a class issue. This isn't a rich man versus the poor man, or a rich man versus the middle class, or the working class versus the middle class. Those issues will work themselves out with sound money and a monetary policy that makes sense. They will. It's pretty amazing once you actually read it and understand it, how simple it is. And once you do, you'll ask yourself, why won't they get on board? That's a question you're going to have to answer for yourself. My answer to all of these questions is Ron Paul for president in 2012.